up, guys? It's Jason. I'm coming at you here post-transplant. That's right. By the grace of God, I got 2 lungs. And I got a transplant on December 1st. So it was a long road to get there. While I was in ICU, I eventually got so bad that they decided to put me on ECMO, which is a machine that pumps your blood out of your large artery in your thighs, takes it out, oxygenates it, and then puts it back in your other thigh. So usually people are sedated and cannulated, which means they put a big breathing tube down your throat, and then they just sleep for a while, and eventually they pull the cannula out, and there you go. Me, I didn't want to go through not seeing my wife and kids, so I chose to be one of 3 people in this hospital's history to do this awake. So also they were really scared about my lungs being so jacked up that if they did cannulate me, that I would be with a tube and asleep until I got my transplant or not. So I didn't want to take that chance, and I did it with local anesthetic, which means they just give you, one of those numbing shots, and that works great on your skin for stitches and such. But when they start digging into muscle, which is what they do, it doesn't work so well. So if you can imagine this, they puncture your thigh, and then they have sizing rods, which means they have to get it to a certain size, because these things are like the size of my thumb that go into your thighs. So they put the first rod in, which is, it stretches it out. The second one stretches it bigger. And the third one stretches it even bigger. And then they put the cannula in. And then they puncture your, I think it's your aortic artery. And then they stitch you up. And then they stitch it down your leg so it doesn't go nowhere. And I'm awake during all this. And I can feel everything. So it was a tough experience. And the nurses started throwing around the name The Tank, The Warrior, right? But, it all paid off because I was awake and I was eating, and, I had everything known to God hooked up to me. I had the ECMO machine, which is basically a mechanical lung. I had high flow oxygen at 100%, which is basically I'm breathing 100% pure oxygen instead of room air. And it was a big thing on my nose. And it was so much pushing in the pressure and the flow that I would get bloody noses. And it was hard when you get a bloody nose and all your oxygen is coming in this way. But I learned a secret that you just pop it out and put it in your mouth, and you're still breathing you can fix your nose and not die, basically. But I had high flow oxygen, the ECMO, and nitric oxide. And the nitric oxide, this is really what did it for me and kept me kind of awake and around. because without the nitric, I would just start dropping. And but that stuff is like, I think it's like $15,000 a can, and I was going through like 3 a day. So they invested a lot in me here. So I got my first phone call. This is what brought me here, and that was a dry run. I got all prepped out, went down to ER, hugged the whole family, cried. We told each other what we wanted to say. My mom was here, my aunts, my cousins, my wife, my kids. I went down to the OR, and within 5 minutes, my surgeon walked in and said, "It's a no-go. One of the lungs was infected. Sorry, bud. We're going back upstairs." I'm like, "What?" So I head back upstairs, past my family again, and everybody's like, "What the heck?" So they come back in, and I tell them what happened. And it is what it is. It happens to everybody. So I go back to my room, and that's the first night. By the time I'm on ECMO, I've been there a month. I'm on ECMO for about 2 weeks, and I'm not doing good. Not at all. And in this period, I'd already had a second dry run where they called and said, "We've got lungs for you. You can't eat at this point." And didn't call me back in like 6 hours and said, "Sorry, the lungs are too high risk, so we can't give them to you. You don't want them." And I was like, okay. So finally, I'm knocking on death's door. Basically, I feel horrible. I'm not breathing good even with the ECMO and all that stuff. And it's amazing, doctors at my levels, that I'm not just passed out, but the trick is I've kind of lived with this for years and years. So it was what it was, and it kind of made my body used to low oxygen. So it kind of saved my butt a little bit. But I got my third phone call. And this is where I went down and prepped out. And they got a phone call. They said the lungs are a go. I thought, thank God. And then poof, I'm asleep from the medicine. So here's my scar. They decided to do the old school, like this is usually consistent with a heart transplant patient. So they cut my breastbone with a saw, and cracked me open that way. Switched out my lungs. My lungs look terrible. I wish I could show you guys. And the donor lungs were beautiful. Just perfect lungs. And I pray for the donor's family. Right now I'm alive, and I'm going to celebrate Christmas with my family. And they're mourning the death of a loved one. So it's bittersweet, but I'm happy to be alive. So anyways, I was out for about 4 days, I guess my wife says, from the transplant, because after they did the transplant, my kidney started failing, and I went to heart failure, which is not uncommon when you have this kind of surgery. So right when they were about to hook me up to the kidney machine, what's it called? I don't know. They everything just kind of healed it, stopped and turned around. so I didn't need to go on dialysis. So I didn't need to go on the dialysis, and it happened suddenly. And then they kind of woke me up, and I opted for, or they opted for this kind of incision rather than the normal clamshell, which goes like this: my armpit, below my breast, up, below my other breast, and then they use a spreader and spread it open, and they access that way. Because supposedly this heals faster and this is less painful. But I've never had any kind of surgery or been, last October was the first time I'd ever had an IV, if you could believe it or not. So I didn't have anything to compare the pain with, so I couldn't tell you. But I know that that once all the drugs wore off and the pain started setting in, I had never felt anything like that, and I thought I was sick. I called the doctors and told them that I was sick. I wasn't myself. I was sweating in a 60-degree room. I had the air conditioner as low as possible, and I'm under the covers, sweating like a pig somehow. Everybody's like, "Oh, it's so cold in here." And I'm like, "I'm sick. I don't know what's going on." And it turns out it was just the pain setting in. And they still ran every test in the book, blood draws, and gave me every IV antiviral, antibiotic that you could think of. But it just turned out it was a pain, and I've never experienced this type of pain. So again, I had nothing to compare it to, so I thought I was sick. But anyways, I survived that, and I had 5 chest tubes that were draining all the fluid. Here are the stitches and scars. So yeah, that was fun. And anyways, after a couple weeks, the doctors noticed there was a hematoma in my right lung from the guy. What happened was the guy got into a car wreck, and he was left brain dead. And his family, my team approached them about me and needing the lungs, and other people needing other organs. And the family had 24 hours to decide. They came back in like 2 hours with a yes. So, bless the donor, bless the families. I don't know if I've already said this, but I'm spending Christmas with my family, and they're mourning a loved one right now. So it's just crazy to me. It's crazy that I got the transplant. It's crazy that, I can breathe without oxygen. I'm sitting in the upper 90s. I'm doing good. I'm having trouble. I'm learning how to walk again because I was in bed for so long. And the reason I'm on oxygen now is because I had a hematoma, like I was saying, and I got infected. So they had to do a second surgery a couple days ago, where they went in with what's called the VATS machine. It's a video assisted surgical procedure where they put 3 holes in you, and in one hole goes a camera so they can see what's going on, and the other 2 holes are tools that they use and they control, and they had to scoop out the what was left of the hematoma, and then flush and drain the infection in there in the lining of my lung. So they did all that. Now I have 3 more tubes that are draining that. So I gotta have them put. So with tubes in my lungs, I'm on 2 liters of oxygen right now. But I'm on the other side. The surgeries are done. Hopefully I'll have these tubes out today, and I'll be headed to rehab on the next week, which is a 2-week program where they basically get me stronger and strong enough to go home and function on my own. So that's all great news, and I'm really grateful. And I'm still in disbelief that I got a double lung transplant and I'm alive and I'm gonna survive. So, if you have IPF, keep fighting. After they took out my lungs, they cut them open, and they said there was so much scarring that there was no room for me to scar anymore. And in like a couple days, there would have been no room for me to accept oxygen through the lungs. So I basically had a couple days left before I died, and I got this transplant somehow, by miracle. This whole thing has been like a big miracle. So keep fighting, warriors. If you have IPF, don't give up. You gotta fight. You gotta just stay in there. If I could say anything, it's been hard, it's been rough, but the payoff is huge. There's nothing that's more priceless than life. Nothing. So keep fighting, keep up the good fight, and take every breath, one breath at a time. So this is Jason signing out. Merry Christmas.